All right. Hello, everyone. How are you? All right. So there are three of us today here. My name is Leah Graham. I'm with the Center for Assessment, Research, and Development here at ACTFL. And I'm with my two wonderful colleagues. I'm with Kim Sallee from Language Testing International. She's waving.
Hello,
and I'm
everybody.
also here with Camelot Marshall. Would you like to wave hello?
No.
Camelot is our lead test developer. All right, so these are the primary topics we're going to be talking about today. Assessment security features, the goals of our at-home testing plans, things that come up along with at-home testing, for example, academic integrity, how do you do it, what does it mean in terms of security and privacy for learners, and we'll talk a little bit about the vendors and about implications for that as well. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna move this down here. All right, so we wanted to be clear, this presentation is only about our K-12 assessment. So if, for example, you are a teacher certification candidate and you're going to be taking an OPI, this does not apply to you. There are proctoring services for that as well. And at the end, we'll share a link with you that you can visit outside of this presentation. So for today, we're going to be, what we're talking about will be applicable to the Apple, ALERA, and the OPI and WPT, but only for the form that is for the seal of biliteracy. Okay? All right, it is very hard to talk without feedback. It's a little weird. So with that, we'll get started. All right, so in terms of our goals with at-home testing, we have a few things that motivated us to go down this road. One is we wanted to be able to offer a flexible solution for this very unusual time. I used to teach writing, and that is such a cliche thing. They used to say, in the post 9/11 world, and I'd always mark that on the paper, this is a cliche statement, but I find myself saying that a lot again. So with the very sort of strange world we find ourselves in right now with the pandemic, we wanted to be able to respond in a way that maintained the security of our assessments, but also allowed us to still advocate for the principles behind seal of biliteracy. We really believed in that, right? So we want to continue to encourage language learners and offer opportunities for them to celebrate their growth. And we wanted to be able to provide some options that were flexible. So that's a bit of where we're coming from. So before we talk about the proctoring services, we thought it might be useful to also mention the security features that are available within the test. So there are a few features that are always disabled. So this is not particular to the COVID-19 approach. Things that don't function within the Apple, the right-click function, they can't use the back button in the browser. It will auto log them out, and they'll get a little message and that says they've been logged out for obvious reasons. Copy, paste, and cut don't work, and the Google Translate plug also does not work, the extension that can be embedded in browsers. So we also limit retake opportunities. So there is a process in place for requesting a retake, but they're granted on very limited, on a very limited basis. So, and again, just going to highlight that last button, which is related to the auto logout. So if for any reason they navigate away, it will immediately log them out, and the proctor has to log them back in. And the data is also captured behind the scenes. Okay. All right, so in terms of academic integrity, that does not go out the window just because proctoring is happening at home. So there are a few things that occur. If your learner is taking the Apple, there are a set of videos that introduce each section, and those videos set expectations for that. There's also an honor code that there you can see a little screenshot here. There's an honor code which test takers have to agree to. Suspected academic honesty is reported to the school. So in our 2 human rated sections, our certified raters are trained to be able to identify behaviors. Sometimes they're very obvious, sometimes they're subtle. But in such cases, tests are put in a status, what we refer to as unrateable, UR. So, and we don't resolve that until one, they're reviewed by us, and anything confirmed is reported to the school and the teacher. And we wait for their recommendations in terms of how to proceed. Okay. All right. So with that, I think it's a good time to talk now about our approaches to proctoring in this situation. So obviously our in-school live proctoring is our best case scenario, and we look forward to the day when that's a viable option again. But we also have 2 additional options available this year. So we have parent guardian proctoring, and we also have computer-based proctoring available. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim Sallee from Language Testing International.
Thanks, Leah. So what we're going to do now is walk you through the parent-guardian proctoring details as well as the computer-based proctoring details. And please keep your questions coming. I've been seeing them coming through the chat. We appreciate it. So the first question a lot of people ask is just who can be a proctor for the parent at-home proctoring scenario. And it's really, it can be any parent, guardian, or other trusted adult. And the process is that the school or the teacher still registers the learner for the Apple, provides the login credentials to the proctor. There are also proctoring guideline documentation that you would distribute to the proctors so that they have a good sense of what's expected of them and what they're agreeing to do. In order to take the test at home, the test is available on Windows computers, Mac computers, Chromebooks, and tablets. So at that at-home testing scenario, we're really able to support all of the primary devices that your learners are using. As I mentioned, we have this testing and proctoring guideline materials that are available, and additionally, LTI has extended our evening and weekend hours to ensure that we're able to support our customers, imagining that a lot of these parent proctors or guardian proctors will in fact be proctoring in the evening and on the weekends. We've made these testing and proctoring guidelines available in multiple languages. And the goal here is really to support your learners' families, even those who are not necessarily English proficient. The next slide will give us the list of languages. And it's not advancing on my side. Okay, there we go. So we've currently have made the materials available in the 13 languages you see here. They're all posted on the LTI website, and we'll tell you how to get there through Apple Central a little later on in the presentation. We also have a request form there where you're able to submit if you need resources in any other languages. That's how we've grown to 13 languages thus far. It's really from teachers and schools reaching out and saying, we have a parent population in our district that speak Vietnamese, and we need to offer parent resources in those languages. So go ahead to the next slide. So what's involved with parent proctoring? Again, the documentation walks our parents through all of the steps in a really simple way. But pre-administration, they're really required to, or they're asked to secure a quiet testing environment, to run a system check, and it tells them where to do that. And potentially, if time permits, we would encourage them to use the demo tests online to familiarize themselves with the Apple. During test administration, we ask that they help the learners manage their time, right? They're really filling in for all of you as educators who would normally be proctoring the test and would normally provide them that kind of a guidance and assistance along the way. We encourage them to have the test takers take a break between testing sessions if they're taking multiple modes of the Apple during a single day or a single session. And then we ask that they maintain the security of the login credentials between administrations, right? If you have them taking perhaps the ILS, the interpersonal listening and speaking on one day and the presentational writing PW the next day, that those login credentials aren't shared with the student for them to access at a point which they're not being monitored or proctored. For post-administration, really, there's two things we ask. Please destroy or delete those test taker login credentials and congratulate their learners for getting through and enjoying and demonstrating their proficiency through the Apple or Alira assessment. Go on to the next slide. So the computer-based proctoring is a slightly different experience, right? So still your school officials, your teachers, or a test site coordinator at your school would be the one to register or request the test. Our computer-based proctoring system is launching Monday, April 20th, so this coming Monday. And at that time, you'll be able to upload a test request form and indicate that it's for computer-based proctoring, okay? We do ask that you complete or verify that necessary waivers that might be required by your district or your state are secured before you sign your students up for this remote proctoring or computer-based proctoring service. We'll go into a few more details around that in a couple of more slides. The cost for the computer-based proctoring is $4 per student for their entire assessment. That can mean that you may have a student who completes the Alira in one session, that's a $4 charge, or a student who takes the Apple in anywhere from 1 to 4 separate sessions. It's still a $4 charge for that learner. So it's $4 per student for as many sessions up to 4 as they need in order to complete the assessments. Again, the school provides the login credentials. It's really an ID that gains access to the remote proctoring system. And then the remote proctoring system is what actually logs the candidates into the test. So the candidates the students, the learners don't get the login credentials to the test. They get a credential to log them into the computer proctoring service, which then logs them into the test. For pre-administration, we do need to make sure that Chrome browser is installed. The assessment, the remote proctoring, computer-based proctoring service is functional on Chromebooks, tablets, laptops, and desktop computers. So we're really excited to enable this service through Chromebooks and iPads, which we know are some of the most common devices being used. But it does, and excuse me, I actually just made a misstatement there. It's Chrome with laptops and desktops for remote proctoring, computer proctoring. Tablets like iPads are not utilized because they're not able to gather the full scene around the student. So let me state that one more time. Laptops, desktops, and Chromebooks are all accepted for the computer-based system. But they do need to have the Chrome browser installed. So that if that's not currently installed on the device that the student will be using, that does need to happen ahead of testing. They will also set up a test taker profile, and that is where they'll take a picture of themselves and they'll do the environment setup and kind of a system check to ensure they've got everything they need. During the test administration, the system is capturing the audio and video recordings, right, of both the test and the test taker environment around the student. and all their on-screen activity. Go ahead to the next slide.
Kim, I'm just noticing in the chat, there are a lot of questions about the cost. So just to clarify, if, for example, you ordered Apple in March, then you could still conceivably provide the test. It would still be $20 for all 4 parts, plus $4 if it's computer-based. If the parents are proctoring, there's no additional fee. I think that was a little...
Great, yes, definitely. So the parent proctoring or the school, at school proctoring, if your school happens to still be in session, those are all free options with no charge around the proctoring component. The computer-based proctoring is what requires the $4 charge. And that is that fee is invoiced to the school at the same time as the tests themselves are invoiced upon completion of the test itself.
Thank you.
So post-administration, what happens is that the video of the test administration is reviewed by select LTI personnel if the test is flagged for potential violations. We're going to go through what some of those violations are in a few minutes, but it's only when the system is flagging violations and then a human review is happening. If any prohibitive activities are confirmed, as Leah explained a few minutes ago, the school will be notified and the related tests will be marked unrateable, so that a rating will not be released. Ratings will be released after the video review is complete and the ratings are finalized. So this will be a 1 to 2 week post-test window. We will not be releasing any ratings until that review of the video file is also been conducted, right, and completed. Go on to the next. So in terms of privacy and security, right, we know that parental permission requirements for participating in a computer-based proctoring service, such as the one that we're using, the requirements around that vary by district and state. And so the schools need to confirm that they have any necessary parental permission to register students for this computer-based proctoring service prior to ordering the tests. Okay. In terms of the privacy and the data that we are passing along to our remote proctoring partner, it's only the minimum necessary information required. So this is student first name only and the test ID. Okay. Once the test ID and student name information is sent over to our partner and your students log in with the ID that you've distributed to them, our partner will collect a photograph of the student, the audio and video recordings of the student taking the test and of the test room environment, and the screen capture, right, that goes on throughout the test. All of that learner data is encrypted, and all of that data is deleted after 90 days. Okay. A few more privacy and security things on the next slide. So the AI technology is used to monitor the testing experience, and this ensures that no human is viewing students while testing, right? It was important to us to pursue a solution that guards student privacy and protects student privacy. So in this scenario, what we've outlined, there is no human behind a camera that a student can't see monitoring them throughout this experience. Instead, the AI technology is flagging the kinds of violations you see on the screen while the student is testing, and then those videos that are flagged are reviewed by select LTI employees when the tests are flagged for those violations, right? We have it locked down to only, that access to these is restricted to pertinent LTI employees only, so that we are not enabling anybody for unnecessary reasons to be viewing your students, right? The list of flags that the system captures are listed there. And as you'll see, many of them also parlay perfectly into the same kinds of security features that are already enabled into our test. Okay, can we go on to the next? In terms of COPA compliance, our online, remote, or computer proctored service is only available to students 13 years of age and older. So we need to ask that schools please not order tests for remote proctoring or computer proctoring for any students under the age of 13. For those students, those learners will need to look at other options. Most likely that would be the parent or guardian proctoring solution. Age verification is conducted when the student sets up their computer proctoring session and their profile there, and students determined to be under the age of 13 are blocked. Once that ID is used and it's determined to be under 13, that ID is disabled. So the students aren't able to go back in again and say, oh, let me change my date of birth and get back into the system. Go ahead. So again, why computer versus human proctoring, right? In this time, we really did evaluate all of the options available and chose, very thoughtfully the solution that we're rolling out here. One of the main, there were several main reasons. One is the ease of scheduling, right? Right now, the live proctoring, human proctoring services that are going on around the world are really stretched thin, and the ability to schedule and coordinate a live human-based proctoring service is very difficult. You're finding time available at non-peak hours, potentially making it difficult to schedule appointments for your students. We do remote human-based proctoring services for other tests, and that's exactly what we're experiencing there, is difficulty holding to an appointment, getting and securing an appointment, and holding to that appointment. So it was really important to ensure that this was an easy option, right, for you and your students. As we mentioned earlier, we feel that the increased privacy that it provides your students is important too, right? You don't have an unknown human observing your student for an hour or 2 hours as they complete the assessments. These observations that are being done by a computer are also completely dedicated and focused on a single test taker. Many of the human remote proctoring solutions that are on the market have a single human observing 25 test takers simultaneously through their tool. So while it sounds more secure to think about there being a human proctor monitoring everything that a student is doing, the reality is those resources get stretched really thinly. It's not a single human observing a single student, but rather one human observing 25 students, much like I might be observing you or you me through this WebEx meeting. So the ability for it to focus on a single test taker and to be monitoring all of the activities that they're doing is important for test security. And then lastly, it's simply a more cost-effective solution. And we know that really right now is not the time for you to be going back to your administration and asking for extra funds in order to be able to administer your language assessments this year. So we wanted to produce a solution that would help programs that want or need a computer-based proctoring service at the most cost-effective price point possible. So those were parts of the decision-making we used. Can you go ahead and move on to the next? And I'm seeing lots of questions that I promise we will get to. In terms of accessibility options and accommodations, these are the existing options that exist with the Apple, and we just wanted to highlight to you that they all are still options available to your students via remote testing as well, or at-home testing. So the Apple is WCAG 2.0 AA compliant. It offers numerous accessibility features to all learners. Those include color control, font size, magnification, It's screen reader compliant with all images, including alt descriptions, and it's keyboard navigable. Those are all features that are available to every test taker without any special request needed. If you have a student with an IEP or 504 plan who needs time extensions, closed captioning, or unlimited viewing, those can all be accommodated upon request. So all we need you to do there is to request those accommodations 10 business days before the testing is to begin, and you just do that through the accommodations@languagetesting.com email. You can see more information on our website under our accommodations link as well. And we can go to the next slide. So just a really quick single slide recap for you, right? We have parent or guardian proctoring available now for all APPLE, ALIRA, and ACTFL OPI and WPT for the Seal of Biliteracy assessments. Computer-based proctoring is launching on Monday, April 20th for students in grades 9 through 12 for the APPLE and the ALIRA. Students taking the ACTFL, OPI, and WPT for the Seal of Biliteracy would like, if you would like to extend a computer-based proctoring service to them, we just need you to request it and we can configure your account. None of the others require an account configuration change. So we just need you to reach out and let us know if you'd like to go down that path. For in-school proctoring, if anybody is still in school, that's always available and will always continue to be available. So I think that was the last slide and took, oh no, one more slide and then questions. So for resources, we've pulled together tons of materials for you. The fastest and easiest way to get there is to go to applecentral.com. You can click on that tile that you see at the top with language learning continuity, APPLE testing at home, and that will take you to our what we're calling the COVID response web page with all of the details, all of the parent resources and materials that you would need to successfully test at home. As I mentioned earlier, the computer proctoring service launches Monday, and all of the resources and support materials around that will be on our website by end of day Friday. So those materials are not currently on the site as we're finalizing them before Monday's launch. So I know there's a few questions that Camelot surfaced up for me. Would you like me to take those first before we go into other questions, or how do you want to coordinate this, Leah?
That sounds good. You could field those first, and then after that, we can sort of pick a few to read off.
Sure. Okay, so I have a couple of questions that are coming in about what to do if you've registered for the APPLE or ALIRA before schools were closed, and now you're figuring out what you need to do moving forward. So if you are looking to do at-home parent-guardian proctoring, you don't need to do anything. You can use the logins and passwords that you received prior to your school closing and administer the test with those. If you are looking to do the computer proctoring service, we will need to cancel those logins and re-register the students. If you have a large number of students that you're doing that for, please reach out to applehelp@languagetesting.com, and we can help you with that process. If you have a smaller number of students, we ask if you could just cancel those. There's a way through the client site to cancel tests and then re-upload. When you upload, starting Monday, there will be at the same screen where you upload tests, there'll be an option for computer-based proctoring. You'll now have to indicate what kind of proctoring you'll be doing when you upload the test, and that will put all of the tests through the system. Mm-hmm. Another question that came through kind of around this ordering bit is what you should do if a learner took part of the test before the school closed and you now need them to take the rest of it. And this has been a common question that's come in through our customer service team as well. So the same kind of thing. There's kind of two answers depending on which service you're looking to use. If you'll be doing parent guardian proctoring, you can use those same tests that have been ordered, and you'll share the proctoring information guide to the parent proctor or guardian proctor. Once that's been done, you share the login and password and some guidance to the parent around what components are needed to be taken. if you need to, or you're looking to convert those tests into a computer proctored solution, the same thing would go. We would need to cancel the components that are currently unused, that have not been taken, reorder them with the computer proctoring service, and then you'll follow the steps for that. No, LTI does not invoice based on tests ordered, but rather tests completed. So even if you have tests that you've ordered that are going to go unused, you will never be charged for those tests. You're only charged for the tests that are completed after they've been completed and rated. Okay, I think that was it for the top questions on my end.
So there's some questions about the pricing of the proctoring for the OPI-WPT for the SOBL.
That is set at $5. So it's a great question. We did not put that out there. That's a considerable discount over the standard proctoring price for that, for the OPIs and WPTs, but it's being subsidized right now during the COVID crisis. So $5.
Okay. And that's just to clarify, that's for the K-12 testing. So if you're an adult, or if you're, for example, doing your teacher certification, there is also a proctoring service available, but it's not $5. I think it's $20. Is that right?
Or $25. It's one of those two. I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, no worries. We can definitely send out a link to that information. There was a good question about whether or not the agreements could be provided in different languages.
Yes, absolutely. Again, absolutely. So that's just a matter of, there's a form on, again, if you go from Apple Central and click the language learning continuity Apple testing at home option, you get taken to a page, and the section, there's a form that's linked in that page. We might try and bring that up to a higher level so it's clearer and more obvious. It's a little bit buried, but it is there. There's an online web form that you would use to request any additional languages for any of the materials. I'm also seeing another question about what to do for learners under the age of 13, right? So for learners under the age of 13, we would, the two options really right now that exist for at-home testing are the parent-guardian proctor option or the computer-based proctor option. For legal reasons, the computer proctor option is not available to students under the age of 13. So the option that would exist for those students would be to go down the parent-guardian at-home proctor solution. And that can go down as young as the Apple is suited for. I see another question around, will the computer mic be sufficient to record the audio on the ILS? Yes. So if we think about in a in a school environment, lab setting, we don't encourage the use of the actual device microphone because there's too much ambient noise going on. But in an at-home testing environment, assuming that the proctor has in fact kept the test environment quiet around the students, the computer mic will be sufficient to capture their audio for us to be able to rate it.
All right, a lot of thank yous. I think it looks like, one general question I saw a few times, is this webinar being recorded and will you share the slides? The answer is yes and yes. So this is being recorded and it will probably surface on ACTFL's YouTube channel. Usually takes the communication department a day or two. So definitely it'll be up by Friday. All right.
Great.
I think we have come a little past our end time. So with that, I will say thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to Michael for his help on this as well. Thank you to Kim and Camelot. we hope all of you are staying healthy, and we'll see you online. Thank you for attending.